The NBA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gam Podcast Network is presented by Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgampodcast.com/edge to get started today. And welcome everybody to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gam Podcast Network. A rare evening episode here on Wednesday, May 24th. Going to preview Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Heat and the Celtics. Yeah, unfortunately for us, we have no games today because Jamal Murray blocked LeBron. So now as a result, we have a day off. But we decided to get the podcast out early because once again, everyone's just waiting for the only NBA game left, which is Game 5. And as a result, we had some free time, figured why not? The lines aren't going to change that much, so might as well jump into it. I'm your host, Scott Reichel, joined again by Delonte Smith. Delonte, we disagreed on everything involving Game 4, and you were right about everything. Time for your victory lap.
Nah, man. I don't take victory laps because I'm definitely probably going to be wrong again pretty soon because I'm going to be on Boston again. So, I mean, who knows? So, I'm trying to move my money back from them kicking my ass for the first 3 games. I'm sorry. So, yeah, man, no victory lap, but felt good to see them actually fighting and actually defending for once. They did a great job of defensively. The offense was still hit or miss, but I think they won the game, strictly off of the defense. We'll get into that though.
Yeah, all I know is for the sake of the game, I got the spot I wanted. I had Miami up roughly 7 or 8 points. There was an opportunity for Boston to roll over. The opportunity was there, and I thought they would. They didn't. That was really the story of the game. I thought Boston, if it got tough, would potentially not exactly have the desire to fight back after what happened in Game 3. I wasn't also a fan of all the comments they were making before the game. Don't let us win one. Be careful here. And I'm like, why are you trying to tempt Miami into taking you seriously down 3-0? But still, Boston responded well, mostly in the third quarter, outscoring Miami 38-23. Tatum took over the second half, had 33 points in the end. I know that he also was really effective on the boards. He had 11 rebounds and he had 7 assists. So he had a very good game. Besides that, though, really just a lot of solid efforts. All 5 starters had double digits. You also had 14 from Grant Williams. So Boston had a very nice 6 players score 11 plus points, and Miami had 4, which was kind of the story of the game. Mm-hmm. But other than that, though, we talked about briefly how Boston kind of picked it up in the second half when things looked a little bit dicey early on. Any main takeaways you want to make for Boston or anything that really stuck out to you?
I still didn't think they played well offensively outside of the threes falling. Al Horford making a couple of those threes kind of opened up the lane to where they wouldn't have to, where they would have to honor him instead of sagging back. So they opened up some lanes for Tatum to drive. I thought he was a lot more aggressive with his drives. Brown still struggled. He had a couple of jumpers, but overall, he still didn't look the same.
I think he had 17 in the game.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that was kind of late, like free throws. I think he had like a layup when Spoelstra had pulled the guys out. So, yeah, I mean, he still didn't play well. I thought Tatum, Grant Williams.
Tatum was great. I mean,
Tatum was great. Yeah, and then defensively, I mean, as a team, I thought they just played well and were totally locked in defensively. Like you said, when the Heat were up 7 or 8, I was like, man, it's looking like Game 4 or Game 3 already. So, but they responded. They did a great job. Not turning the ball over. I think they only had 1 turnover in the second half.
I think so. Yeah.
Not excluding garbage time. I'm not sure about that, but I know they did a great job of taking care of the ball. They also were kind of getting into their zone offense a little bit more, so they're getting comfortable seeing that zone. I'll be interested to see how they do at home and what Spoelstra throws. Like if he throws a little, 1-3-1 or whatever. But yeah, man. Overall, I thought they fought. They lived to play another game, and I think they got a shot to win it. I mean, point spread says so. So I'm looking forward to it.
I was going to say, I know that we're, in addition to going over Game 5, we might also be discussing the updated series prices. So besides potentially winning Game 5, we talked a little bit before we went on air, so I feel like we know where both of us might be leaning in this game. But the point is we will be covering the series price as well, and we'll see what adjustments Spoelstra makes, not just for Game 5, but potentially for the rest of the series. I do want to ask you, though, since Miami only scored 99 points at home in Game 4, did Boston actually play good defense, or did Miami just miss a bunch of shots they were making in the first 3 games?
I think it was a combination of both. I mean, Caleb Martin started off 6 for 6.
Yeah,
The open looks were still there, so I thought they didn't do they did a better job limiting the open looks than the 3 previous games, but they still had opportunity. Like Miami still had opportunities to pour it on. They just missed. And I think maybe they might be hitting a wall. I mean, they shot 50% for what? Like I think over half of their playoff games.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that's hard to sustain. Granted, Boston was a top 3 defensive team according to efficiency, so I think it's a combination of both. I wouldn't put it all on Boston's defense. I also wouldn't put it all on Miami just missing, but I would say a combination of both because, like you said, Miami still got open looks. I felt like Duncan Robinson still getting open looks. Caleb Martin was open several times, but I think that came with the 2 big lineup on the floor with Horford and Rob Williams. So I think he has to go away from that to get more of the perimeter defenders out there, so it's a lot more switchable. And even though Rob Williams did a great job switching in to Jimmy Butler, thought he did a great job limiting him from getting to the paint, staying on his feet, not getting fooled by the pump fakes. But overall, I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, I do think that it's definitely a combination of both. Usually, when you ask a question like that, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. But I do think that Miami did leave a lot of points off the table just because they had a lot of open shots. From what I saw, they only went 8 for 32 from 3. Boston's intensity definitely picked up, so props to them. Miami scored 56 points in the first half, and you thought, here we go again, because they were averaging roughly 120 in the series. But Boston did a great job holding Miami to just 43 points in the second half. On top of that, I do want to ask you, even though there's no way to prove it, do you think Miami might have been focused on the champagne ceremony in the locker room at halftime?
Man, honestly, I have like zero doubt. Like with the Spoelstra and Riley led team, I don't think that they'd lack any kind of focus, especially with Jimmy at the helm. Any other team, I would say maybe or a definite yes. But with Miami, I don't think that they were looking towards anything. I thought they were focused on the game. It just so happened that Boston was locked in defensively and Miami shots didn't fall. So I don't think it was a lack of focus. I just think that, the shots didn't fall. Bam, I know we talked about Bam before we got on. He didn't have as good of a game. But I mean, got to give Boston credit. They play with a lot more intensity, and Miami had been killing them points off turnovers. They were averaging 20 points in points off turnover for the series. That's what killed the Knicks in the last series. So without turning the ball over, Miami still, they're not as bad as they were in the regular season, but their half-court offense isn't as elite as those numbers say once you don't turn the ball over. So, I thought they were locked. I thought Boston was just locked in defensively, especially in that second half.
Yeah, for me, I do feel like a part of Miami's intensity was, I don't want to say gone in the second half, but it felt like Boston played significantly harder than them in the second half. That was my main takeaway. And yes, you could argue it's a desperation factor because Boston's trying to fight off elimination. And I know that Miami, you could argue with Riley and with Spoelstra, maybe they weren't potentially counting their chickens before they hatched. But when you hear in the media, I know a lot of players try to pretend they don't pay attention. They do. They pay attention to social media. Let's be real. But I mean, they own several TVs in their house, so I'm sure they caught all the TV reports and stuff like that. I don't think anybody really gave Boston a chance in Game 4. I didn't give them a chance. I know you did. A lot of people thought Boston was going to roll over again. Once again, I thought that was going to be the case. And I feel like maybe in the back of their minds, they thought to themselves, either when they saw it on TV or they just thought in their own mind, oh, we know this Boston team's going to fold because they always fold. And then Boston did not. So a part of me wants to believe that Boston came out and just buried them while Miami was giving full effort in the second half. I really thought that Miami looked just a step slower and I'd say a little bit less engaged than they were in the first half. I'm not once again going to take credit away from Boston because once again, they did what they had to do. But I do think a part of them, regardless of coach and regardless of who the president of the team operations are and how much of a legend Pat Riley is, you have a lot of undrafted players on that team that are on the verge of going to their first ever NBA Finals. I do think that might have been in the back of their minds.
Yeah, maybe a little, a couple of those guys, but I mean, like you said, it's hard to gauge, but just with the organization and the culture that they have, I thought they just didn't play well. They didn't play well. I mean, they're human. It happens. It's hard to keep that intensity and shoot as good as they have been doing in this series and throughout the playoffs. So I'm actually wondering how they'll translate to, going on the road. Because my thing is, maybe they were set on, okay, we might, not blow them out and we might have to fight for it, but we're going to win. So I'm thinking if they're a little bit deflated from that game and that, transfers to game 5. So that'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think they just got outplayed, and I mean it happens. I mean, Boston's a great team.
Yeah.
So
and some of it was regression to the mean, as you said before, with Miami shooting. So
yeah. So I'm interested to see how that plays out on the road.
Yeah, I was going to pivot to something else, but I honestly forgot what I was going to say. I'm sure it wasn't that important because I would have remembered what it was. But I do want to ask you just in general about some of Miami's supporting cast members, because we saw that Martin was great. He had 16 points. He was very good in that game.
Yep.
Vincent was solid once again. However, he did kind of tweak his ankle there.
Any update on that?
What?
Any update on his ankle?
As far as I know, he's still going to play, but I am kind of wondering if he's going to be at 100% or 80% or whatever.
Yeah.
The point is, let's assume Vincent's ankle does kind of bother him a little bit, because that was the main takeaway I had in the fourth quarter, because the game was basically over, if we're being honest with each other. So Strus is going to be the main guy that has to step up. Robinson only played 11 minutes, and once again, defensively gives you nothing, so you're just hoping he can actually hit some shots. Do you have faith in Kyle Lowry or any of these other guys to step up that we have not seen step up before? Because I feel like we already know Martin's been a steady contributor. Vincent's been really good the last couple games, but let's assume Vincent takes a step back. I have no faith in Kyle Lowry because shooting-wise, he's been a mess since game 1 in the series. So I'm not really sold on his potential to give you a sneaky 15 points off the bench. Do they have a guy like that? Because I'm not sure Robinson can really play. They really need Strus to step up, don't they?
Yeah, I would say a combination of Strus. I mean, Martin's gonna do what he does. I think he's underrated defensively, also of his size and him being able to switch with Butler, and Vincent's a good defender also, so they'll be losing that if he's not able to go. But yeah, I think that the main thing was to Miami's success is they're able to play Kyle Lowry in pockets and not have him, be on the court for an extended period of time. And I think he's better in that role for this specific team. So
he had a decent stat sheet game in terms of 8 rebounds and 6 assists in 28 minutes. But once again, he went 2 for 8 from the floor, 1 for 5 from 3. The shot's broken right now.
Right. And again, he's playing with the second unit, or, half of the first unit and, the rest second unit. So he'll be going against first unit guys. And, that's going to change a lot. A guy that I think is going to play that hasn't played if Vincent's hobbled or not able to go is Highsmith.
Highsmith.
Yeah. He had success against Boston in the regular season. Now, obviously, it's the regular season, so, but still he has solid success against them. He's got a nice size, good frame. He can shoot it fairly well. But I think he'll have some success if he's able to get in and Spo.
Pretty good rebounder for a guy.
Yeah, and who knows with Spo? I mean, you never really know. But I think Highsmith, if Vincent's not able to go, I think he'll be able to step in, and he's already have the confidence to be able to score, and he knows what to go against with the Celtics team. I mean, they're not going to change. I mean, just both teams not going to change as much, so it's not going to be a drastic change. I mean, we're 4 games in, so it's all about the small things. And I think defensively is where they'll lack the most. Scoring, I mean, we've seen Miami win like slugfest with New York. We've seen them win, track meets with Boston and Milwaukee to a certain degree. So I think they're comfortable playing at any style. But to answer your question, I think it'll hurt them more on the defensive end than it will offensively. But I think Highsmith, if he comes in, I think he'll play well. They'll be able to still play Lowry in those certain pockets. I don't know about Robinson. I mean, he is kind of hit or miss. I mean, he didn't score in the first game, right? He was like
Robinson had 0 points in 7 minutes.
And I mean, he's getting good looks. I mean, even last game, I thought he had some good looks. He just missed them. He's doing a really, really good job off the ball, cutting, especially when Bam's on that empty side at the high post area. But Boston did a good job of cutting that off and making sure he put the ball on the floor. But yeah, man, I think Highsmith is gonna be a big issue for Boston because they haven't seen him. I mean, so it's new to them. They got to be able to adjust. And I think Spo, if Vincent can't go, I think he'll be able to put Highsmith on the floor and do some different things.
I think Vincent's once again going to play, but I have to at least acknowledge the injury because people might assume that he's 100% fine. I'm not sure. It didn't look great. It wasn't so bad they
Yeah.
carted him to the locker room, but it didn't look like it was something that he's just going to brush off. He might be feeling the effects of that for the rest of the series. But I remember what I was going to say before, by the way. I know some people were mentioning Scott Foster being the ref for Game 4, aka the extender. Yeah, Miami had 10 more free throws than Boston did. I didn't really think the officiating was bad whatsoever in the game. I don't think it had any impact on the game. Did you? At no point did I think the officiating really played much of a factor.
Yeah, I mean, outside of just a few calls, I thought
that's
just
in every game.
Though. Yeah. So I didn't think it was egregious at all. I thought it was decent. I mean, some of the stuff they were letting go a little bit more than the first 3 games, but overall, I thought the officials did a good job. It was a really good officiated game to me. I mean, outside of the reviews for the dumb,
you had some stuff like that, but
but outside of that, it wasn't.
Miami's record with Scott Foster is not very good recently, which is why I brought it up. But once again, I'm not gonna blame Scott Foster for why Miami lost. I really did not think the officiating was that egregious, or there was really any real problems that I had with it. Now, yes, the reviews, once again, you mentioned a couple calls here and there. That's with every crew, but I didn't see any Scott Foster tinkering there to make sure that Miami ended up potentially losing the game. I ended up just seeing Boston outplay them, and that was really just the story of the game, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm going to ask you one point, though, before we move on to Game 5. Miami, since they got blown out at home in Game 4, what do you think's one main adjustment the Heat are going to have to do for Game 5?
They're going to have to run Boston off the 3-point line. Boston saw it go in. I think they were I don't know what they ended up with because of the garbage time. I think they were at, the last time I was tracking it was like 17 or 18 made threes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
do you have that? Yeah, so they got to do
They finished with 18. I'm not sure about garbage time, so Boston was pretty late to pull everybody, though. They pulled everyone with like a minute.
No, they were.
So I think it was just 18.
Yeah. So I think they got to do a better job of running Boston off the 3-point line, making them drive inside. And I mean, White was like getting every open look. I feel like all of Derek White's shots were wide open. So they got to do a better job on the pick and roll, pick and pop, I would say, and defending the 3-point line. But outside of that, I thought they did a good job as far as rebounding. They had spurts where they looked locked in defensively. It's just that Boston hit those shots. I think Tatum in the third quarter, man, he started off like back-to-back threes. Then he got an and one, and then he was going to the line a lot, getting his confidence up. And I think they got to do a better job of just keeping those guys limited into those runs. You can't let Tatum go on the 7 to 8-0 personal run. I thought White had too many open threes, so running them off the line. They did a good job of that early on, which is why Boston struggled shooting the ball. They just weren't getting enough looks, so they were forcing it. So I think if they get back to that, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think one thing Miami might have to do is tinker with the rotations a little bit with the bench, but for the most part, I just thought it was shot variance, simply put. Miami made a bunch of shots early in the series. They missed a bunch of shots they normally make, and we'll see what happens moving forward. But I don't think it's panic mode, and that's that's what Butler said post-game. They lost the game. It happens. Yeah. Now, if they lose Game 5, which is going to segue us into the discussion for Game 5, then we can talk about it. But for the sake of Game 5, I want to at least go through the odds here. Boston at home is -8. The Heat are +8 the other way. Slight juice to the +8, but it's basically even on both sides. You have Boston on the money line at -300. Miami's around +250. And the over-under is 215.5. Delonte, I'm going to let you go first. I feel like I know where you're going because you told me before we went live. Yeah. Where are you going with this game?
Yeah, so I'll lay it with Boston. I think they got a little bit of confidence back. I would rather go through and lay it first quarter, first half than the full game because I just don't trust them to put them away. The Heat are going to come out extremely, extremely aggressive, knowing this is a big game for them. They do have the home game in their pocket, but they don't want to extend it any longer. You saw what happened to Strus. That could happen to anybody. You don't want injuries to deter you away from having a great series against Denver if you're able to move on. So they're going to come out. They're going to get their best shot. Ironically, the Celtics have not played well starting off the first quarters. I think Miami's won every first quarter in this series. So that Celtics got to come out. They got to be dominant. They got to be able to extend the lead so that way they can have a little bit of room of error. I didn't think Mazzulla made any adjustment. I didn't think he did anything, to be honest. I
Truth
thought,
is, him keeping Tatum on the bench for the start of the fourth quarter was hilarious, but it didn't matter in hindsight.
Yeah, I didn't think he did anything like egregiously wrong. I didn't think he adjusted and did anything great. I thought the players just played a lot better. I mean, and that's what I was hinting at earlier. I mean, it was some of the stuff was his fault, but I think the players were just not playing hard. They weren't giving a lot of effort, and that started on a defensive end. It doesn't take coaching to get you to play defense, and I thought that was the case for the first 3 games. And they were locked in defensively. I think they'll be locked in defensively at home. Their record at home is very underwhelming for a historically great franchise who plays well at home. So I think they'll come out. I think they'll get it done. I'll lay the 8 with the Celtics.
Yeah, by the way, to pull up the first quarter numbers here, Boston did lead after the first quarter in game 1 and game 2, but they didn't cover. They led by 2 in game 1. They led by 1 in game 2.
Yeah, and they were laying, 3.5.
Give or take. So they didn't cover either spread, but technically they were leading after a quarter in the first 2 games.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking about the cover and not actually. Yeah. Okay,
so just to specify there. Now, for me, I think Boston's going to win the game. I'm not picking Miami to win. I'm not sure about 8. Because there's 2 ways to look at it. Either on one hand, Boston rides the energy of the crowd, and they're able to blow Miami out. Miami's potentially no-showing. Maybe they'll look forward to Game 6 at home. I realize I also had a typo here. This is actually supposed to be Game 5. Let me just fix that for a second.
It's all good.
Yeah. There you go. It's Game 5. So maybe they're looking ahead to Game 6. We'll see. But the point is, I do think that Boston, I don't know what to make of their home court advantage because it doesn't exist. They can't win a home game. Like, it's really insane how this team is so talented. In the regular season, they were good at home. To go through the actual numbers at home, they were 32-9 straight up at home. They're 0-2 in the series at home. They lost a home game to Atlanta in the first round. They lost a couple of home games against Philly. They can't win a home game. So I'm not sure if it actually matters how crazy the atmosphere is going to be. Now, Jimmy Butler had the smile there, the devious smile in the fourth quarter, and we know what that means. It means Miami's going to bring it for Game 5. I think I'm going to lean to Miami plus the points. I don't feel great about it either way. 8 still feels a little bit large to me because I still don't trust Boston to close out games. I just thought Tatum took over a quarter, or a half, basically, and that summed it up. But you mentioned it, Missoula didn't really make many adjustments, and once again, he kept Tatum on the bench to start the fourth quarter when he was the only reason why they were winning in the first place. I would have just kept him in for an elimination game for the entire second half.
Yeah,
Tatum should be playing 45 minutes every game. He just has to.
Yeah, I mean, Tatum, I'm telling Tatum at the jump, like, look, you're playing every minute of every game we got left.
Like early second quarter. Maybe you could steal like 2 minutes. Maybe.
Okay, if I guess I would preface it by saying if they're in a good space after that first quarter, then yeah, like you said, second quarter for the first 3 or 4 minutes,
game
seeing how things go.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no, you are not coming off the floor. I'm sorry.
But that's kind of the problem that I have, though, because assuming that since they won Game 4, I'm assuming Missoula's going to do the same exact thing with Tatum in the fourth quarter, and Tatum's going to sit to start the fourth quarter. That'd be my guess. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen.
You got to switch that up. You got to switch that up.
I don't think they're going to, because once again, it technically worked out in Game 4, so I think they're going to stay with it. So the point is, I do think Boston, they let Miami make the game interesting for about a minute, and then Tatum came back and they went on an immediate 9-0 run. But I do question Boston's ability to close games. But having said that, I do think Spoelstra will get a much better effort from his guys for a full 48 minutes. And once again, Miami's been good on the road. Boston's been brutal at home in this postseason, just winning games, let alone winning by margin. I think I'm going to lean to Miami plus the points. But once again, I do think we will be going to a Game 6.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'm not prone to disagreeing with anybody who wants to take the Heat. I think the Celtics are going to win the game. I prefer them in the first quarter, first half, and I lean that way. And one of the reasons why I'm leaning to them laying the 8 is because I think that if it gets out of hand, maybe not out of hand, but let's say 12-13, 3 or 4 minutes left in the game.
Miami
whereas you would finish it out. I think Spoelstra will pull those guys with the Game 6 in the back pocket at home. So with that being the case, I think that's a little bit more value on the Celtics, being that the Heat will probably wave the red flag early, knowing they got to come back, knowing they got to go back to South Beach.
Yeah, which I think is definitely true, but I do think for the sake of the spread, I don't trust the Celtics enough to lay 8. You can argue it's a great spot,
Yeah.
which I'm not even sure if it is or not, to be honest, because once again, Boston literally cannot defend their home court to save their lives. So I don't know if this is a good spot or not, because Boston has been really good in the postseason run when they need to be really good. When they're on the verge of having their season end, they
Right.
show up. The
Right. Yeah,
problem is anytime they get a little bit full of themselves, they get embarrassed. And I am concerned after Boston gave a great effort for one half, because the first half wasn't even a great effort in game 4. When they
yeah, it
gave
wasn't.
their
It
great
wasn't.
effort in game 5, are they going to start getting full of themselves again down? I don't know. There's a chance that maybe they sleepwalk through a quarter or two and then
Right.
Boston comes back. But once again, they're going to be down, so it's going to be tough for them to win by margin. I don't trust them to win by 3, arguably 4 possessions against a Miami team that, when push comes to shove, I think is mentally tougher than this Boston team.
Yeah, not disagreeing. Do you have the first half scores in front of you?
The first half scores.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let
just
me.
straight up, because you said something that I
You
thought
want the
was really
margin or the
intriguing.
exact scores?
Yeah, just the margin and who was winning.
Okay. So game 1, Boston led by 9 at halftime.
Okay.
Game 2, Miami ended up leading by 4. And then you go to Miami. Miami was up by, I don't know, 60 in game
Yeah.
3 at
Right.
halftime.
Right.
So that was
Right.
a destruction. They were up 15 at
Mhm.
halftime in that one. And game 4, Miami was leading by 6. So
Right. So
Miami's been leading at
3 of the
halftime in
4.
each of the last 3 games.
Yeah, right. So 3 of the 4 games, Miami's had control of the first half. So I think they got to flip that. I think Boston has to flip that and play well. In game 2, if I'm not mistaken, they had a run right between the 6 to 9 minute window. I can't
Yeah,
remember
I think so.
exactly when it was. They had a run where they went up about, I think, 11 or 12, and then Butler came out. They responded really well, ended up tying it. And I think that ended up changing the tide of the game. I think they were shocked that happened because they had all the momentum. Crowd was going crazy, and they come out and spoke all the timeout. They come out of that timeout. They tie the game, and I want to say that was the game that Caleb Martin hit like back-to-back threes to take them into the half, if I'm not mistaken.
That
So
sounds right. Yeah.
yeah. So well, Caleb Martin making anything sounds right in this series. But yeah, I think they got to come out with a little bit more urgency in the first half because again, we all know how fragile they are down the stretch, and now they haven't been good in close games, and vice versa with the Heat. The Heat have been incredible in close games. They have been all year. They've been in tough games. Whereas Boston, I think if they have the window where they can have a little bit of margin of error and be able to, let's go from okay, we got a 12 to 15 point lead. If they cut it down to 6, we call a timeout. We bring it back up to 8 to 10. So I think if they can have that little bit of error room, I think they'll be fine. But it's just the opposite of where they're down and they have to make plays or play after play, and then defensively they have to make stop after stop is where the lack of confidence comes in for me.
Yeah, but in general, you're on Boston. I'm going to lean to Miami.
Yep.
Any thoughts on the total?
Yeah, I'm going over. I went under last game. I thought it would be a more intense, game, and it ended up going under by a little bit. I mean, it had a chance to go over if Boston would have pulled their guys a little bit earlier when Miami did. But yeah, I think over. I think Boston has a great offensive night. The Heat. I mean, although they might not shoot as well, they're still getting good looks. So I got to count on them to get their looks and hit a little bit more than what they were. Bam's probably going to show up a little bit more, so he'll give you his, basic 17 to 20 point in that window. So I think it goes over. I think both teams have success offensively. I'm just banking on the Celtics being a little bit better defensively. And if it's a blowout, I mean, the Heat's bench come in, they score a few points, so we can get it over. 215 is really, really low.
I understand why the line has really not moved at all because game 4 could have gone either way for the total.
Yeah.
I am pretty torn when it comes to the over-under in this game because on one hand, Miami did not shoot the ball well. They shot 43.6% from the floor, 25% from 3. On the other hand, Boston shot over 51% from the floor and 40% from 3. So you could argue that's going to balance out. So that should once again get you around this number. I think I wanted to lean under because I like Miami. So it's kind of correlated.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think Miami's got to make the game ugly. but
Yeah.
Miami also wants to run at times. So it's kind of like a paradox because Miami, you assume, wants to make the game pretty disgusting in the half court. But on the same point, they've been very good in transition. And as a result, they can get a bunch of good looks. I think I'm going to lean over just because I do think Miami's been getting good looks. And once again, a couple of them didn't go down compared to the first couple games. But I still think the overall shot quality is still solid. And Boston's gotten some good shots as well. I think I'm going to lean over. I don't feel great about it, but I do think that it's going to be very close one way or another.
Yeah, and in the post game and also in the coach's interview in the fourth quarter, Spo was really like emphasizing their pace, like they were getting out in transition and their pace was kind of wearing them down a little bit. Some of those they were making some of those guys work defensively, which was taken away from their legs offensively, which might have been one of the reasons why they weren't making all those shots late. Caleb Martin started off hot, but I think he didn't end well. Either he didn't get up shots or they were running him off the 3-point line.
No, he missed his last 3 shots.
Right.
Did he score in the second half?
I'm not sure, but I think he was getting some looks, but like they were closing out and sending guys. They were blitzing the pick and roll for Duncan Robinson, making him give it up early, and Bam just didn't have it last night, so that made it a little bit harder on those shooters. So the pace was one thing that Boston has to keep. They have to keep that up. They have to get those guys running and make them actually defend. Because I mean, in game 2 and 3, they were just basically in the half court heaving up threes with like 10, 11 seconds left on the shot clock, not moving the ball. So I think with the pressure on them, moving the ball and getting out in transition and in pace, making those guys run and defend, I think that's to Boston's advantage. This is one of the reasons why I like the over. And you mentioned it yourself about the Heat being good in transition. I think they'll keep up with that pace and they'll be ready to run and gun with them.
Yeah, I'm not betting the total, but I figured we should at least talk about it. So
yeah I'll be.
I think this number does feel like it's where it should be, but I'm going to lean to the over.
Yeah, it's been around the same, like around the same 214-ish, 215-ish. So
yeah, but anyway, that's going to do it for the actual game lines, the standard lines. Now it's time to actually get into the player props for the game. Delonte, I'm going to let you go first. Any player props jumping out to you?
Well, I'm gonna stay on Tatum because I think like he's locked in. If you notice, like from the jump ball, he was locked in defensively and offensively. I think he started off on Butler. He did a solid job on him, minus the pick and roll. They were hunting Derek White. It's crazy how Derek White is second team all defense, and he's getting hunted by Jimmy Butler every single play. Like
it's because of the size differential.
Yeah, that too. But it's just like Jesus, like every single time up the floor, they're just like hunting him. So I'm gonna go with Tatum triple double. I guess I'll save the triple because I'm gonna get to that with my dog. But I like him over his points. He's at currently. Let me see what he's at. He should be at 30 and a half.
He's at 30 and a half.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go over 30 and a half for him. I'm sticking with Grant Williams over. They got to keep playing him minutes. He's giving them intensity. He's playing really well defensively. He's knocking down the shots. Now his
line's at 7.5, which I think is really, really low.
Yeah, so he's going to get those minutes, especially if Brogdon keeps struggling. I'm not sure. I think Brogdon will have a decent game here. But Grant Williams on the floor, I don't know what his plus minus was, but it had to be off the charts because I seen like every time.
15.
Yeah, every time he was on the floor, he's making positive impact on the game. Defensively, he was diving on the floor for loose balls, fighting for offensive rebounds. That kind of effort has to keep you on the floor. So I think he stays on the floor. I think he knocked down a couple of threes at home. He's shooting 50% on corner threes in the playoffs. Now, limited sample size, of course, because some of those games, he wasn't playing. But he's notoriously a good three-point shooter in those corners. So I like him over his points, and I like Jason Tatum over his points as well.
Yeah, for me, I see Williams, I said before, it's 7.5. I think I'd rather just play the over 1.5 threes because he went 4 for 7 last game from the floor, but he went 4 for 6 from 3. So if he's going to get to 8 points, he's probably going to have 2 3-pointers and a layup. So you can get over 1.5 threes at plus 154. I don't mind an alt 3-pointer line, honestly. If you want to take 3+ threes, go nuts. But I think he's going to play close to 30 minutes. Once again, I mentioned earlier the series in game 2. I know people criticized him for it because he quote-unquote poked the bear. But at least he showed effort. He's been willing to actually give consistent effort, and he's good for switching purposes. And if Boston wants to go smaller and play faster, that does work out. And I do think that Grant is, once again, an undersized forward in terms of height, but he does a good job battling bigger guys. We saw him against Embiid in the last round. He actually had some good moments defensively in that series. I like Grant Williams over as well. 7.5 feels low. I like the over 1.5 threes at plus 154. 2.5 threes, maybe if you want to go for a long shot parlay. I wouldn't mind maybe 3+ threes. But I do think that Williams is the way to go. I will ask you though, do you prefer the 7.5 points or the over 1.5 threes?
And what is the 1.5 threes at? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Plus 154.
Oh.
Do you think you can go over 7.5 without hitting 2 threes? It's basically the question.
He might, because my thing is with Grant, he's so aggressive on the offensive boards that he'll, maybe get a putback and one. He might go to the line 3 or 4 times. So I probably would play both. But if I had to pick one, I'd play the plus money on the threes.
Yeah, I'm with you on the plus money there because you're getting an extra like 60 cents, give or take.
Right, and he can still hit 2 and cash and go under his points. But I think he'll make a bigger impact on the game from the 3-point line. So yeah, I'll go with the threes at the plus money.
And for the record, he did actually go over 7.5 in game 2. He scored 9 points. He only made 1 3-pointer. So he has done it before. He did go 2 for 3 from 3 in game 3, finished with 12. So in theory, he went over that number if he only made 1 3 as well. But he did get more volume up in game 4, and he ended up going 4 for 6. So the plus 154 I find quite appealing.
Yeah, I love that play, and I would ladder it up like you were saying, like 3+. Because honestly, if things are going right, then he'll probably take more Rob Williams minutes, especially during that window where if Tatum and Brown, well, they should never be on the bench at the same time, but just in case one of them is off the court, then he should be the primary defender on Butler, and also being able in that weak side corner for the catch and shoot 3 off the pick and roll.
Do you want to guess what the plus price is on Williams 3+ threes?
So if it's 150, 154 for one over 1.5, I'm guessing it has to be 325, 330.
Can I interest you in plus 550?
Oh yeah, I'm on it. Yep, I definitely take that.
FanDuel is 550. I can guarantee you as of right now, one of the perks of doing the show extra early is you can probably beat some lines. There is no way after game 4 Williams will close anywhere in the 5-1 range for 3 threes. That'll probably close closer to 4-1. Would you agree with that?
No way that closes that high. No way. I'm actually betting there right now.
I'm just saying 550, there's no chance it's going to stand. So if you actually want to take a long shot parlay or something, do it now. And if you want to include Williams in there, you can. But there's no way that Williams threes will be at 550 even tomorrow morning. That's just not going to be there. So wanted to bring that up. Besides that, though, for props, I actually had a pretty good day with the props. As I said before, in game 4. I was on Vincent and Martin overs. I'm still on Martin over, but I am a bit more concerned about it because Boston seems to be honing in on him more because he looked like Steph Curry for about 3 games in a row. Vincent, I don't know what to think of Vincent because once again, I have to keep an eye on that ankle. And some people might be thinking I'm overreacting to it. I don't think I am. I've played basketball, of course, non-professionally, but still on a high ankle sprain. It's not fun. And when you're going to be focused so much on rhythm, and Vincent also can occasionally get to his own spot by dribbling, I do wonder if it's going to affect his cutting around screens if he's going to be maybe half a step slower. So I'll ask you because it's kind of scaring me off Vincent. Does it scare you off Vincent at all?
Yeah, so I'm scared of the Heat as a whole until I actually see an update on if he's actually going to play. Because I think Reggie brought up a good point on a broadcast, which is far and few between, or few and far between.
I was gonna say, one's an insult, one's a compliment. So you got to choose your words wisely on that.
Right. Yeah. So he was saying that the adrenaline will get him through this game, which we saw him come back and play. He was moving okay. He even went to the lane and got fouled, but they didn't call it. But I think immediately after that, Spo got him out of the game. So he probably is good on adrenaline in that game, but it'll probably swell up. He's probably getting treatment on it. So I didn't take any Heat players until I get an official report on if he's in or out, because that dictates a lot. And we don't know who Spo's going to play and how he's going to play him. But if he's out, I'll definitely be on Highsmith props, and I'll be on Strus as well. But until then, I'm kind of like teetering on the player props as far as the Miami Heat side goes. That's why I didn't give out any at all. Outside of, Jimmy, we're just going to go with Jimmy, points, rebounds, and assists as always.
Yeah, for me, by the way, I did find Grant Williams over 6.5 points at -110 on BetMGM. So you get a free point there just by shopping around. Wanted to include that. I do think since I am concerned about maybe Martin and Vincent's effectiveness, I got to pivot to a guy who got a bunch of run in game 4. He was okay, wasn't great, but he had a couple of really great games earlier this postseason. I think I'm on Strus. I think Strus is going to be my pivot here. He played a bunch of minutes. He played 36 minutes. He went 1 for 5 from 3, 4 for 9 from the floor. So I know the shooting wasn't great per se. Did have 7 rebounds, though. So I think that he did a very good job on the glass because Adebayo only had 5. I think Strus is going to play a lot in this game. And I think that with him, once again, playing 36 minutes in game 4, I do think his points prop at 10.5 feels very low just because he shot the ball that poorly from 3. If you think they're going to end up focusing more on Vincent and on Martin, and maybe Vincent's minutes will be a little bit more compromised or limited than it was previously, if Strus plays 35 minutes and you're going to give me a starter to score 11 points if he's going to be playing 35 plus minutes, I'm going to take it. And his name's not Al Horford, so I'm going to take it. So give me Strus to go over. That number feels a bit low.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And they'll Strus is good at defensively, like poking the ball out and then leaking out. He gets a couple dunks a game off of that alone. And if the jumper's falling, I mean, he's played well in Boston the first 2 games. I think he played well. He went over that number if I'm not mistaken, especially the threes. I know for sure he went over the threes. But yeah, I'm with you on Strus also. I just want to make sure that, if Vincent's compromised, or I kind of want to get an update before I dive into anything, but I do like Strus.
By the way, he's been completely hovering that number. He had 15 in game 1, 11 in game 2, 10 in game 3, and 9 in game 4. However, games 2 and 3, he only played 27 minutes and 25 minutes. And once again, his minutes ramped up to 36 in game 4. And if Vincent is a bit compromised, Miami still wants to keep the 3-point shooters on the floor. Robinson barely got any run last game because A, he was off, B, still can't guard anybody. So I do think Strus is in a good spot to step up. And it is pretty interesting that Strus over 10.5 points is minus 130, but him to hit 3 threes is even money on FanDuel. So FanDuel's assuming he's going to hit 3 threes. So I'm going to take the points. I just think that he can get a couple of opportunities where maybe they'll start doubling Butler. They'll focus in on the Butler and Bam pick and roll. And once again, Miami still attempted 32 threes in game 4. They're going to chuck him up. I just think Strus gets more attempts than other guys you might be expecting.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all. Like I said, I just want to make sure, because if he's probably going to be, my thing with that is he's probably going to be more so on a defensive assignment also if Vincent's out or hobbled, because if he's out there, I mean, Boston has to at least test him out and see how well he can move laterally. So I try to put him in a bunch of screening rolls, a bunch of cross screens, just to make sure that his lateral movement is really what it was in the first 3 games. So it'll be interesting to see. I do like Strus a lot. I'll be on him in some form or fashion. I just want to wait to confirm it.
Makes sense. Besides that, though, of course, I'm going back to Tatum, either with rebounds or points and rebounds. I think Tatum's going to have a good game. I am wondering if Miami's going to start sending extra guys at him because Jaylen Brown has still been a complete non-factor in the series, and maybe you pick your poison and you'll let Brown try to wake himself up out of it, but you'll just prevent Tatum from dropping 35 on your head again. So points might scare me from Tatum. Maybe assists is an interesting pivot. I like rebounds in general. Horford's been the starting center, but Tatum's been the main rebounder for this team. I cashed a lock on Tatum rebounds earlier in the series, and it went over at halftime. That would be my main play for Tatum. I was going to take Kyle Lowry under. Doesn't exist. They don't have lines up for him yet. I am going to go back to Jaylen Brown under, though, which I've been taking every game in the series, and it's been cashing every game. Even with Boston winning, as I said before, in game 4, Brown really wasn't great. He had 17 points. I didn't think he did much. He had the one dunk there on that 3-on-1 fast break in the fourth quarter. That was basically it. He might have had an and one as well in the fourth quarter. But he's at over under 22.5. He hasn't gotten close in this series. Like, I understand you're expecting him to wake up at some point, but I'll believe it when I see it. If you want to keep giving me a high inflated number, expecting him to bounce back, and he scored less than 23 points in every game of the series, he scored less than 18 points in each of the last 3 games, I'm going to keep taking the under. I just think 22.5 is too high.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It was 24.5 early on.
I'm shocked you don't disagree, because I know earlier this year he tried to persuade people to jump on
Yeah.
Brown.
Yeah, no, in that specific game, man, I thought he was gonna shake out of it, but for whatever reason, he didn't. He played horrible. He's played horrible, and it's getting overshadowed by them as a team playing horrible. But
But he
like,
talked to Anthony Edwards after game 4, so maybe he's ready to roll.
maybe they need to switch places.
Is Edwards there for the basketball, or is he there for the nightclub? Probably the nightclub, right? I was so confused when they showed Anthony Edwards there. I was also confused by A-Rod and Jeter being there, which I thought was kind of fascinating. But I guess A-Rod lives there, and Jeter was connected to the Marlins, even though Marlins fans probably hate him because he wasn't exactly great in the front office. But he might live there too. I saw Edwards backstage, or in the locker room talking to Brown. I'm like, Ant, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I mean, they're both Atlanta guys, so they grew up in the same area. I know Jalen went to Wheeler, which is a big basketball school in Atlanta. I'm not sure where Ant went, but I think they're from around the same area. So
I went to college at Georgia. So
so I think they're probably familiar with each other, like AAU circuit, high school, of course. But he probably needs to tell Jalen to be more aggressive, or start playing like you're supposed to be making all this money in the off season. But I think that Jeter and A-Rod were there giving me 0-4 Red Sox came back from the 3-0.
I'm curious if Boston paid them to be in attendance, just just to get the vibes right for Boston to make a run.
Get Pedro with the bloody sock in there for this game at home.
That was Schilling with the bloody sock.
Schilling, I'm sorry, Schilling, not Pedro. Yeah.
But either way, not a fun time as a Yankees fan. But still,
definitely not.
Any other player props you want to talk about, or should we just move on?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm laying off. I'll probably give some out in the Discord or on Twitter, or whatever, once I find out more about Vincent.
Cool. So that's going to wrap it up for the actual Game 5 breakdown. We will be talking about the series price and how crazy the odds have shifted over the last couple of days, or the last day. But until then, we are actually going to take a quick word from our sponsor. We're brought to you by Edge Boost. Have you signed up for Edge Boost yet? If not, you're missing out. Edge Boost is the world's first bet now, pay later Visa card. Similar to buy now, pay later programs, Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest and pay back the advance over 4 equal weekly installments. That's right, 0% interest. Simply deposit funds into your account, and Edge Boost will match the deposit, so you can use 2 times the funds on any legal sports betting site. Edge currently offers up to $2,500 in advances. Up to $2,500 you can add to your bankroll. My Edge Boost double down play of the day is going to be, trying to think of which player prop I want to talk about, because we mentioned a couple. You know what? Grant Williams over 6.5 points. Why not? Yep. That's going to be my double down Edge Boost play. But go to sportsgampodcast.com/edge to sign up today. That's sportsgampodcast.com/edge. Must be 21 or older to use. Only valid in legal gambling states. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing Game 5 as well as recapping Game 4 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now it's time to talk about the fun little circus, which was the gambling odds, and now the world is on fire because the Heat lost one home game. The Celtics series price, because they were in the 6-1 range, give or take, maybe a little bit higher, going into Game 4. Can I interest you in plus 210 for a team that's down 3-1? Once again, teams down 3-0 are an impressive 0 and 150 in NBA history. However, the circumstances surrounding this Celtics series are definitely unique, because usually the massive favorite with home court is the team up 3-0. So you have to win a couple of road games, including a road Game 7. That is not the case here. Since Boston did win Game 4, and since we don't have the 2-3-2 format, Boston only has to win one more road game. So I'm going to ask you, initially, I had Boston in 7 to win the series. Not the way I drew it up. I also had over 5.5 games in the series. Not the way that I drew it up. Now that's back alive. First of all, do you think the odds are fair? Second of all, do you think Boston's actually going to pull it off?
To answer the first question, don't bet Celtics to win the series. Just bet, like we talked about, just bet Jason Tatum to win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. There's better odds if they win. If they
I've been waiting for that to get posted. I haven't seen the odds posted, but I would bet that instead.
Yeah, if they come back to win, it's going to be on the shoulders of Tatum. It's nothing that Jaylen Brown can do. outside of scoring 100 points a game.
No, he no-showed 4 games. He's
right.
not
no way. It's no way he's coming back to get it. Nobody else is going to be deserving of it. But I would not bet if you didn't bet it when they were down 3-0. Don't bet it now. I mean, the odds are probably about right because you got to think they're going to be favored in 5 and 7. If they're 8-point favorites, so they're minus 300
they're going to be favored in game 6.
Yeah, maybe, or it might be a pick. I think it might be. I think
Miami was minus 1.5 at home after they won the previous game by like 26. Boston in game 3 was favored by about 4.5. Boston will be favored in every game. I'm assuming Boston in game 6 would be like minus 3. They'll probably meet in the middle of game 3 and game 4. But Boston is going to be a massive favorite in game 7, a massive favorite in game 5. I think they will be favored in game 6.
Yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, I mean, it seems crazy, like, just from being down 3-1. But like you said, circumstances are different. I'll probably dig into those numbers to see how many home teams or how many higher seed teams being down 0-2, what the results of those have been.
I believe it's only happened 3 times.
Oh, okay. So that
now 3-0 is the higher seed to come to potentially. I think it's happened 3 times.
Yeah, and I think Jordan was up on Seattle. I think he was up 2-0 or 3-0.
They were up 3-0. They lost the next 2 games, and then they won 6.
Right.
Actually, I'm going to rephrase it. I believe there's only been 3 teams in NBA history that have lost the first 3 games as the higher seed and won game 4 on the road. So entering game 5, going back home, I believe that's only happened 3 times.
Right. And refresh my memory about, you remember in the bubble? I mean, it's different, obviously, not comparing, but when the Clippers, did they win 4 straight? Did they win 3 straight? They were down 3-1 and won 3 straight against Utah, right? They won the game without Kawhi or without Paul George, one of those guys, where Terrence Mann went crazy and they came back from like down 25, 26. You remember that?
That was not 3-1. In fact, they won that series in 6. That was not game 7.
Oh, okay. Maybe they were down 2-0.
Having said that, Denver did come back from 3-1 down in back-to-back series.
Right.
Against Utah and the Clippers. That was the year before, but still.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. But I mean, just don't bet the series. Just wait till you see the Jason Tatum MVP odds. Get that. The odds
Eastern
are probably
Conference MVP.
Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't bet Finals MVP. But yeah,
you can if you want to, but that's not what we're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't bet it. The odds are about right. Like you said, they'll be favored in every game at worst. If this, I guess, depending on how the money flows, with the game 6 coming, give or take, it probably won't be higher than 2.5, I guess. So, yeah, I think it's a fair price. I wouldn't bet it, but I mean, odds wise, it's about right.
I'm trying to do a parlay calculator quickly. I'm gonna have to speculate what the odds might be. I'm assuming the odds for game 7 would be similar to game 5. So I'm gonna use the money line price here. 300. If you do a 3-pick money line parlay, and I put the money line prices at minus 300 for game 5, let's say minus 150 for game 6. Okay, you can argue maybe it's too high, too low. I think 150 is in the middle. I think that's kind of fair. Game 7, I went to minus 300 again. Do you want to guess what that 3-pick money line parlay pays out at?
Probably like what, 175?
Plus 196.
Yeah, that's close. Yeah, and I think honestly, the game 7,
there's value on it if you think Boston's going to be favored by around minus 150 or so in game 6. In theory, there's value on the series.
Game 7 might be a little higher. Might be up in that 9.5 range.
It might be because home teams in game 7 historically have been really good.
And that was the line of the first game. It was not. I think it opened 8.5. It got bet to 9.5, and then of course the game 2, the historic game 2 trend where the home team off losing game 1 was incredible. Like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's an incredible number, and that was like 9.5. So yeah, I think it'll be 9.5. So it might be even lower than that. So
once again, you can mix and match the
but that's a nice average of what you would expect.
It's an average. So it still comes out to less than 2-1, and you can still get 250 on the series. The point that I'm trying to make is, even though it's never happened before, I do think Boston got, I don't want to say the toughest game out of the way, but the game I was immediately most concerned about, they got out of the way. And when you're applying the money line parlay, the implied money line parlay, and what it should be in my estimation, it is doable. Like I think Boston's got a shot at this.
Yeah,
am I picking them to do it? No, I'm not. I think Miami's going to win one of these next 3 games. But based on where we're at right now with the series and how Boston only has one more road game, I think it's actually quite feasible. I'm not picking it, but I think it definitely can happen, and it's not some impossible task. It might have been going into game 4.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I think it's actually doable.
Yeah, especially with how they played going into game 4. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Now they got that bad taste.
That's why I thought it was over.
Yeah, they got the bad taste out of their mouth. What would really be hilarious is if it goes to 7 and they lose.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The exact same thing as last year, except Miami wins the game on the road.
That would be incredible.
I don't think it's going to happen because you touched upon it. I don't think Missoula made any adjustments. I just think Boston played better.
Yeah. Actually,
so I think Miami's going to win one of these next 3 games, but once again, with the odds and how big Boston's going to be favored in games 5 and game 7, it's not as impossible as you might think.
Yeah, it's not. It's really not.
If I gave Miami odds to win the series right now, I'd probably go like 66%.
Yeah, I'd probably go like 60-40.
And most people with a 3-1 lead would probably tell you like it's going to be 80-20, but I don't think it's 80-20.
But again, like you said, the circumstances are completely different. With Boston having 2 home games left and
being the more talented team on paper.
Right.
So just to be clear, though, we are not taking Boston to win the series.
No.
Or are you?
No, I'm not. I will just bet them to. I think they'll win. I think they'll win tomorrow night, and I think it'll be tough in game 6. But okay, so I'll preface this. If they win game 6, I think they'll win game 7.
Okay.
So if Miami loses game 6, it's over.
I can agree with that. I think sounds pretty reasonable.
If it goes to 7, it's over.
Yeah.
They got to close them out
at that point. Then again, that would be the perfect letdown spot for Boston to completely lay an egg. But still, I do think at the end of the day, the point that I'm trying to make is I'm not taking Miami to lose this series.
Yeah.
But based on what the parlay odds would be, technically Boston plus 250 is actually not a bad deal.
Yeah.
But that's the point I was going to make. Anything else you want to say, or should we wrap it up?
No, I think I made a bet on Tatum MVP, Eastern Conference MVP right before game 3. I'm trying to tell you I'm going to see what number I got so you can see about what
I'm going to guess you got like 7-1 or 8-1.
Let me see. Where is it? Let's see. Tatum. Oh. Jesus Christ.
I'm going to guess 750. Lock it in.
750. Let's see.
Because they're down 2-0, losing both home games. Yeah, that sounds about right. It might be less because the odds maker still gave Boston a good chance to win the series.
Yeah,
it might be around like 5.
Yeah, 575.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I overcooked it. I should have quit when I was ahead. Yeah, but
575 is what I got. Yep.
I'm assuming if you can get it now, it'd probably be close to like 3-1.
I think it'd be a little bit over. So if the series, what are they? They're 225 to win.
They're 225, 250.
Yeah, so I think he probably around 275, 285.
Yeah, give or take, but still. Once again, if they're going to win the series, Tatum's winning the award. But that's going to wrap it up for the actual series price breakdown. Now it's time for the Lock and Dog picks. But before I actually do that, have another read or another sponsor that I want to tell you about. It is Shady Rays, who I'm sure you figured out because they've been sponsoring this whole month. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May. Not only do you get an amazing 50% off deal, but you also have a chance to win $500. Shady Rays has durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. If you lose or break your pair, even on the first day, they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. And if you don't love them, exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. No risk at all when you shop with Shady Rays. And for international listeners, Shady Rays has you covered as well with shipping to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. Go to shadyrays.com and use the code SGPN for 50% off 2 pairs of Polaroid sunglasses. And remember, May is almost over, so make sure to take your receipt to sportscampodcast.com/shady for your chance to win the $500 Shady May contest. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing Game 5 and going through some series futures for the Heat and the Celtics series. Now it's time for the Lock and Dog picks for Game 5. Delonte, I'm going to let you go first. Where are you going with this one?
Yeah, I'm keeping it short and simple. I'm going with Boston first half -4.5. I would take the first quarter, but I do not like how they've been playing in the first quarter, so I'll give them time to adjust. Hopefully they get out to a large-ish lead, 7 or 8 in the first quarter, and they're able to come back and and withstand that Miami run that I know is coming. So I'll take Boston -4.5. You can get some fours out there if you shop around. So I'll take 4.5 as the consensus for the lock. For the dog, I don't see Jason Tatum triple double. I don't know if you've seen it.
I see 13-1. Let me quickly check if there's a better price, because 13-1 sounds atrocious.
Yeah.
Let me just see if I can find something better.
Yeah.
You might have to do a same game parlay with it, but let me just quickly pull this up. Sorry. I know you can continue your explanation. I'll pull up.
No, I just think that he's been so aggressive rebounding, and his assists are at plus money right now. So if you want to bet them individually,
I found 18-1.
Yeah, give me that 18-1 for the dog. I think he's going to have a big impact on the game. He's been distributing at a high level off the pick and rolls. He's also been in transition as the ball handler, finding guys on the outside, throwing lobs to Rob. So I think some of those shots will fall for Brogdon. He's had opportunities to get triple doubles. Just guys weren't knocking down shots, specifically Brogdon and Brown, who's been shooting horrible. And Smart picked it up in the third quarter, but overall he hasn't shot it well. So I think those guys will shoot it well at home. I think he's got a great shot to cash this number. The points we know will be there. I think the rebounds are highly unlikely that he doesn't get 10. And I think that assists is all we have to worry about. He's getting opportunities, and I think he'll capitalize here at home in a big game.
Yeah. So just to look at, by the way, Tatum's rebound prop for the game is 10.5.
10.5 yeah.
In game 5. So looking at my lock for the show, I'm probably going to go with 2 player props just because I do think this game could go either way in terms of the spread. I'm still leaning to Miami, but still. I was really hoping they'd give me a Lowry prop so I could just bet the under, but they don't have it. So I think for the lock here, I'm going to go with Strus. I'm going to take Strus over 10.5 points at -120. I think the volume's going to be there. We saw Boston have a much better defensive effort against Martin last game. And once again, Vincent with the ankle. I think Strus by default is going to have to play a bunch of minutes. He's pretty good defensively, decent rebounder. I think Miami's going to lean on him, and I think he'll probably play around 35 minutes or so. So it's mostly a pure volume play. I think he's going to get the minutes. Hopefully it's some shots, but I think he's in a good spot, and we know that he's capable of hitting a bunch of threes. Once again, he's even money to hit 3 threes. So I do think that him going over 10.5 is quite reasonable. So once again, my lock will be Strus over 10.5 points at around -130. And for my dog, we mentioned it before on the show, but I'm going to go back to it. It's going to be Grant Williams threes. I'm going to take him over 1.5 threes. Actually, do I want to go nuts for the alternative?
Are you going to go 5?
They wouldn't even give you anything past 3, to be honest. I'd be shocked if they did. Yeah, they didn't. They have 3+ threes, which is the best I can get on FanDuel at +600. It went up, actually. It's at 6-1. You know what? I might just ladder it. I'll split my dog up into 2. Give me Williams 2+ threes at +150.
Grant Williams, not Rob.
Sorry, my bad, not Rob. Sorry. So I'm gonna redo that. For my dog, I'm gonna chop it up and give out 2 half-unit dogs. I'm gonna go with Grant Williams over 1.5 threes at +150. And I'm going to go with Williams 3+ threes at 6-1. So once again, for Delonte's lock and dog, he is going to go with Celtics first half -4.5. And he's going to go with Tatum triple-double at around 18-1. My lock's going to be Strus over 10.5 points. And my dog, which is going to be it's going to be a ladder play. It's going to be Grant Williams, not Rob. Grant Williams over 1.5 threes at +150 and over 2.5 threes at +600. That's going to wrap it up, though, for this episode of the NBA Gambling Podcast. We're back once again, not tomorrow, because this was the show for Thursday. At some point, I don't know. We'll be somewhere. I'll be on the WNBA show with Terrell. But Delonte, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, man. XX on Twitter. I'll be there, and we'll be locked in after the game. I think Friday, maybe we'll do a show. I'm not sure how we'll recap the show, but we
have an off day every day and every time now because once again the Lakers got swept. So.
Right. So I'm not sure how we're going to recap the show, recap the game tomorrow, or we'll talk to them off, and I guess we'll update everybody on it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But either way, until then, you can find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Find me on this show, the Tennis Gambling Podcast, of course, and yeah, I do a bunch of editing. But anyway, enjoy the game. Good luck to you and your bets, and see you next time. Bye, everyone.